If you thought Kingdom Hearts and Mortal Kombat had confusing stories, say hello to Bayonetta, where time travel, sparse details, and mind-bending uncertainty reign supreme. Get a notepad, you're gonna need it. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. There are many questions when it comes to the badass, gunslinging, hyper-sexualized beauty in her tale of memories regained and justice served. But with a character this cool and gameplay this fun, who cares if everything makes sense? Some video game tales are just easy to understand. Bad guy steals princess, good guy saves princess, everyone's happy. Others are a bit more difficult and require heaps of background and explanation. Bayonetta is among the latter, and this is her origin. And she's only had 2 games so far. The story begins 500 years ago in the holy European town of Vigrid, where 2 rival factions work together to preserve the balance between light and darkness in the universe. The Lumen Sages control the light, and the Umbran Witches reign over darkness. Each group holds half of a powerful treasure known as the Eyes of the World, with the Lumen Sages in possession of the right eye, and the Umbran Witches of the left. With harmony existing between the 2 groups, the world also knows harmony. That is, until a certain witch and sage from either side have a baby together.
Our laws are clear. They demand you be eternally imprisoned. As for the impure child, she must be kept from the path of the dark arts forever.
Enter Bayonetta, the love child of that deeply prohibited sage and witches union. Her mere appearance ends the long-standing harmony between the clans, causing the Great War.
The child remained with the Umbra, raised as a black sheep even amongst the darkness.
Her father Baldur is excommunicated from the Lumen Sages, and her mother Rosa is imprisoned by the Umbran Witches. Seeing as the witches are victorious in the war, Bayonetta is raised a witch, but a fierce backlash soon escalates to a witch hunt, leading to all but 2 of their clan being killed, Bayonetta and her friend Jean. Each Umbra Witch has the ability to summon contracted demons to fight alongside them and give them great strength. Though, seeing as Bayonetta has a mixture of both sage and witch blood, her powers are thereby increased compared to others in her coven. So, out of fear of her powers falling into enemy hands, Jean casts Bayonetta into a deep sleep, wiping her memory clean, and locks her in a coffin at the bottom of a lake where she slumbers for 500 years. Some friend, huh? Nowadays, she'd probably just have unfriended her on Facebook. On to the events of the first Bayonetta game, where, 500 years later, our heroine is awoken from her slumber by a journalist who's torn to pieces by angels for his efforts. But at least he gets the narrative started. Or at least his son Luca, who witnessed his death, does. Bayonetta possesses a jewel that she believes to be the left eye of the world, and thinks the answers she seeks could be found if she obtains the right eye as well. With the help of an informant / Joe Pesci impersonator, Enzo, she tracks the right eye to her hometown of Vigrid, where she meets a young girl that looks shockingly similar to her, known as Cereza. The young girl thinks that Bayonetta is her mother, which frustrates the witch, but she ultimately ends up bonding with and protecting Cereza.
If there's 2 things I hate in this world, it's cockroaches and crying babies. Well, a crying baby cockroach would be truly terrible. So don't you dare cry.
Bayonetta also meets Jean once more, but her friend has been brainwashed into believing they're enemies. So Bayonetta must protect Cereza while keeping Jean at bay.
Out to find some answers about your past, are we?
Here's where things get a bit tricky.
My name is Baldur, but if you so choose, you may address me as Father.
Bayonetta soon finds her father, and he lays an epic time-traveling truth bomb on his daughter. Cereza is Bayonetta as a child, and Baldur brought the child to the present so that Bayonetta could somehow inspire herself into knowing that she's in fact the left eye, not her jewel. Yay for time travel.
All this has been done to awaken the left eye. For that, you had to see yourself once more.
Baldur reveals himself to be the right eye, and so the Eyes of the World treasure is thus completed, which sparks the arrival of the creator, Jubileus, who sets about creating a new world to replace and destroy the old one. Luckily, however, Jean snaps to her senses and actually helps Bayonetta for once by rescuing her from Jubileus' grip, essentially removing the left eye, thus defeating the creator and averting disaster. Baldur eventually dies when Jubileus' head comes crashing back down to Earth, but not before preventing a mysterious entity from attempting to escape from him, but he holds it at bay while he succumbs to his injuries.
My dear, sweet child, at last you have fulfilled your promise to me.
The second game picks up with Bayonetta doing some Christmas shopping, only to be interrupted when holy crap she just punt-kicked a fighter jet. And now she's fighting angels on top of it while it's still flying. You know, typical holiday festivities. Anyway, during the battle, Bayonetta summons the demon Gamora, but it breaks free from her control and steals Jean's soul, taking it back to Inferno. The young witch then sets out to retrieve her friend's soul, but she learns that the mission is next to impossible, and also, if she spends too much time in Inferno, she'll be trapped there forever. On her way to the underworld, she meets Loki, who claims that he can access the gate to Inferno. Angels are chasing him, so he strikes a deal with Bayonetta. Protection for access into Inferno.
Let's move, little one. Hey! I just told you my name is... You'll earn your name when you become a man.
Along the way, however, they run into a mysterious masked Lumen sage who seems to have a vendetta to settle against the amnesiac Loki.
Haven't seen her in ages. Besides, even if I knew, she and I have a special relationship.
Then this will be all the easier.
Which Bayonetta thwarts twice. Later, upon arriving at the gates of Inferno, Bayonetta and Loki run into him again, along with another mysterious figure, Lopter. The masked Lumen attacks Loki, while Lopter shows Bayonetta a vision that suggests her father wasn't actually responsible for the witch hunts and her mother's death, but it was her newfound partner Loki who instigated it all.
Baldur!
Rosa! What have you done?
Loki then opens the gates to Inferno, and he and Bayonetta enter the underworld. Suddenly realizing she has limited time to save Jean, the young witch puts the Loki issue aside and instead rescues her friend. But before being able to confront Loki, the masked Lumen sage appears again and reveals himself to be none other than her father, Baldur. Just much younger and somehow time traveled from the long ago past to the present. Yay, time travel again! A strange reaction then occurs with Loki, sending Bayonetta and Baldur back in time 500 years to the witch hunts, where our heroine fights alongside her mother and the Umbran witches against the angels.
You?
Here, Bayonetta runs into a child who looks and sounds just like Loki, but is instead revealed to be a younger version of Lopter. In turn, she also learns that Loki is innocent from starting the witch hunts and killing her mother, with the guilty party none other than Lopter.
The other me escaped to the future, and I can't let him have them.
Having traveled back to the present once again, stay with us, Bayonetta convinces the younger Baldur that Loki is innocent, and that Lopter is to blame. But it's not that simple, because you see, Lopter and Loki are actually two halves of the same being. Aesir, the former ruler of the human world, who's responsible for creating the eyes of the world. Having split apart, Lopter represents Aesir's evil side. Lopter tries to reabsorb Loki's sovereign power, which would make him Aesir once more without Loki's influence. But Loki resists and greatly weakens Lopter, who's then defeated by the combined strength of Bayonetta and Baldur, and the world is saved yet again.
What?
But not before Lopter's spirit attempts to escape into the past, where he would be born anew. To prevent this from happening, Baldur merges with Lopter, knowing that doing so would eventually consume him with pure evil energy. With his last ounce of free will, he tells his daughter that she'll have to be the one that stops him when the time comes. Which, if you've been keeping track, has already happened. Yep, it turns out that Lopter was actually the real enemy of the first game, not Baldur, as he was merely possessed by him. A revelation that leaves Bayonetta at her weakest emotionally. Until the post-Christmas sales start and she goes right back to shopping with Jean. While Bayonetta's storyline is not all that long yet, it already has enough twists, turns, and time travel to fill multiple sci-fi novels. With a fascinating backstory and a lovable main character, the series draws endless amounts of adoring fan theories, and there is already much speculation online about the storyline to the upcoming third game, despite it being very early in production. Hell, at the rate the series keeps jumping through time, we wouldn't be surprised if we see Bayonetta face off against the older version of herself while protecting Jean as a child in the era of the dinosaurs that's been taken over by cybernetic angels. Wouldn't surprise us.
Again?
What a game!
Thanks for watching Mojo Plays. Be sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and check out our suggestion page in the description below.